Hello, everybody, and welcome in Mysteries with Mr. Belgic. And today it's with Mr. Mike Rodelli, with my guest. So, firstly, I know that it's been a while since the last time I saw you, that we have done an interview and we have done a show. There is really nothing new in the Stephen Avery case. So, this there is just this little detail that I have learned today about that Jack West on the Stephen Avery project on Facebook had received a new information that she will send to Kathleen Zollner to see if it's reliable or not. But for now, we don't know. So we are waiting for Kathleen Zollner to do something or not. We don't know if the information could help or not. But today we are on the Zodiac Killer mystery with for the first time on the channel, and I'm really glad to have him, Mr. Mike Rodelli. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really fine, really fine.
That,
So
that's good. That's good.
first, I really like who are Mike Rodelli. It really matters to me. Who are you?
Well, that's a really open-ended question. Um, I'm a guy who got caught up in the Zodiac mystery 26, 27 years ago, and because I think I'm right about who the Zodiac killer was, I haven't let it go. Um, I was working at a dead-end job as a secretary in a large company, Lucent Technologies, which is now defunct. But this was in 1998, 1999. And in those days, they didn't have the same software that they have today, where they can monitor your every keystroke on the internet. So what I would do is, when my boss wasn't looking, I would get on the internet trying to find something to stimulate my mind because my job was so boring. And one of the things I happened onto was the Zodiac case, because I had read Robert Graysmith's book and always been fascinated, especially by the codes. I mean, I'm not a cryptographer, and I did very little with the codes, but the codes is what actually interested me. And I got into chat. I got into some websites. Jackson Garland had a website at the time. I think the only website, maybe. And then some chat rooms and some message boards. And then Tom Voigt came along with his website. I think in 1998 it was, or something like that. So I developed some friendships: Jonathan Zykowski Jr., Mike Kelleher, Ed Neal, a few others. And I started talking to Mike Kelleher, who was writing a book at the time. It's now been out for many years. It's called This is the Zodiac Speaking. And in it, he analyzed the Zodiac based on the letters that he wrote. And he came up with a certain profile. But we were talking about Riverside at the time, because at that time in 1998, everyone thought that Riverside was Zodiac's first murder. Now things have evolved, and there's questions as to whether he committed that crime. I actually don't think my suspect committed that crime. But at the time, everyone was focusing on Riverside as Zodiac's first murder, where he might have made mistakes or left clues about himself and things like that. So Mike and I were talking, and we continued talking by email until late June of 1999. From August of 98, when I first started, till June of 99, Mike and I were basically talking via email. And I had an idea. He sent me an email where he said that I have to remember that Zodiac didn't send his first letters until after his second attack.
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I thought to myself, well, maybe Zodiac sent letters to the editor under his own name before becoming the Zodiac. And I thought it was a very simple, naive idea. I didn't think it would lead anywhere. But I was working with Ed Neal at the time, and I thought that in order to access the San Francisco Chronicle, you had to live in the Bay Area, because I didn't know that the microfilm I needed was in the New York City Public Library. And so I had Ed go to the local papers. It's actually better that someone else did the research, because then it takes me out of the picture. So someone else did the research. They found one letter to the editor that mentioned. I remember he said he sent it to him because it mentioned Hitler, and that was a letter that was written by Shel Cavalli, who we learned very quickly was a multimillionaire who lived in Presidio Heights. And I thought to myself, geez, this guy couldn't have been the Zodiac. So we decided to just start doing some research on him. We found very quickly that, like I said, he lived 2.5 blocks from the murder scene. He was a dead ringer for the sketch. He had reported flying saucers, which I felt was an attention-seeking episode. He got himself in a book, report on the UFO wave of 1947 or something like that. But this was when flying saucers first started. This is when flying saucers the word was invented, like a week before his sighting. His sighting was on like July 5th, 1947. And he said very specifically that what he saw were spaceships. He wasn't most people at the time were very cryptic about what they saw. They wouldn't say it was a spaceship. They would say it was round, it was as big as a house, it was as small as a teacup. But Cavalli was very specific in saying that he felt he saw spaceships. And so he was the only credible person out of 800 sightings in that book that said that the flying saucers were from outer space. And he later said in an article in the one of the newspapers, either the San Francisco Chronicle. No, I think it was the local paper in Oakland. It wasn't the Chronicle. It was a local paper in the Times Star, the Alameda Times Star. He said that he wished that these things would land and they would tell us where they were coming from. So he was very specific about saying that these craft were from outer space. And of course, he got articles written about himself because of his sighting. So and then we wrote to him. Ed had an idea that I should write to him and ask him about his flying saucer sighting, which I did. He wrote back on monarch-sized stationery, which of course is the type of stationery the Zodiac used for his letters. So all of a sudden, amazingly, things started to fall into place with him. And eventually Ed left me in July of I think it was July of 2000 or something. He left me high and dry. I was all by myself, but I continued to do research. And everything I found about Cavalli, like the way he spoke, I found an article that said that he had a very slow manner of speaking, which was described for Zodiac. So all the evidence started piling up. And so I finally decided that this guy must have been the Zodiac. And so I went to the police, and the police were less than useless. I mean, I went to the Napa Sheriff's Office, and I remember going there and sitting in their basement at a conference table, and the detective came in. He looked at me in the eye, and he said, "I'm not going to investigate your suspect because I don't want to lose my job." That's what he said. So this should have clued me into the fact that Cavalli was an untouchable in San Francisco. He was too politically connected. He was too powerful. He was too wealthy. But I kept plowing forward. I went to the Solano Sheriff's Office. The detective there was very interested, but he was being kept from going to San Francisco to interview Cavalli by his superior, a guy named Cuevas, and he and Cuevas had a big shouting match. So, and ultimately he wasn't permitted to go into San Francisco to interview Cavalli. So this is how I got involved in the Zodiac case. And I still believe that I'm right about who the Zodiac killer was. People say, oh, he's obsessed with the case. The way I look at it is if a detective gets a hold of a case and doesn't let it go for 25 years, he's called a pit bull. If an amateur gets a hold of a case and doesn't let it go for 25 years, he's called obsessed. So be it. I believe that I'm right.
More like a pit bull than something.
Yeah, I've turned out to be a pit bull. I didn't know I had it in me, but I've been a pit bull. And after my book came out, I was able to develop 3 pieces of evidence that I believe confirmed that Cavalli was a Zodiac. The first is that in his autobiography he wrote in 2005, he very casually mentions that he was stationed in Crow's Landing as part of his deployment. Well, Crow's Landing is in Stanislaus County, very close to where Kathleen Johns was abducted. So this would explain how someone who lived in San Francisco was familiar with Stanislaus County and was familiar with that area, the back roads where Johns was apparently abducted and driven around. So to me, that was a clue that he was leaving. Another clue that I think he left in his autobiography is that he said that he hosted a hill climb race up the side of Mount Diablo, but he didn't give the date, didn't give the month, the year, I mean, even the year. So you had no clue what the year it was or what the date was. And it took me many years to find out. I ended up talking to a guy, I think his name is, oh boy, I always forget his name, Dave Agassi or something like that. And he lives near Mount Diablo, and he's into car racing. So I asked him if he knew anything about the date of that race. And he sent me, a few weeks later, he sent me a link to an article. He said, check out the San Francisco Chronicle for July 3rd, 1949. It's a Sunday, and it's a joint publication of the San Francisco Chronicle and the Examiner. And sure enough, there's an article about the hill climb race, and it says it took place a week before. Well, the week before July 3rd was June 26th. So Cavalli associated himself with Mount Diablo on June 26, 1949, and the Zodiac sent a letter associating himself with Mount Diablo on June 26, 1970. So they both associated themselves with Mount Diablo on the same date. The other thing I found out, the third thing, is that Cavalli was very close with nobody could figure out why Zodiac sent a letter out of the blue to Count Marco. Well, it turns out that Cavalli was very close with Count Marco. He did business with him dating back to the early 60s. And, I think that's the other thing is that Count Marco had a column called Count Marco's Mailbag, where we talked about letters that he received. And in 1962 or 61, he received a letter asking him, why do you creep around, or something effective, why do you creep around like a red phantom in black paint? So the red phantom was brought up in his article. And then in 1969, just after the Lake Herman Road murders, there was another article, and it said the exact same thing. Why do you creep around like a red phantom in black paint? So there's an association in the columns. There's an association with Count Marco and a red phantom, and the two letters were signed. One was signed Chicago, and one was signed Happily Married. Now, Cavalli was born in Norway, and he was raised in Seattle, and his wife was from Alameda County. So neither one of them had any ties to Chicago. But something I learned a long time ago is that Cavalli was married in Chicago in 1950. So when Happily Married in Chicago applies to Cavalli, I don't know that, I can't say that he definitely wrote the letters, but it certainly applies to him. And they both mentioned the Red Phantom, which is mentioned in the letter that was sent to Count Marco. So I believe that Cavalli probably wrote those two letters, even though I can't prove it. It's hard to prove that someone wrote a letter, but when you look at Chicago and Happily Married, they certainly apply to Cavalli. So those are the three things: June 26th date, the association with Crow's Landing, and the association with Count Marco that I've learned since my book came out.
Great. And I tell you, I've wrote this book. It's fascinating, really. It's really
Thank
fascinating. And when you read it, you can see the work you have put in that. There is a lot of precision, really stuff, really precise. There is a lot of work in there. This is a really good book, and I don't say that because you are there. I always tell the truth. I nothing to gain, nothing to lose. I
Right.
told you it's really, really a good book for people who are interested.
Well, I don't know if I'm blushing or not. Let's see. No, I'm not. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's frustrating to put that much work into a book, and my thanks that I get is a thread on the message board that says why Cavalli wasn't the Zodiac killer. Not why Cavalli was a Zodiac killer, why Cavalli wasn't the Zodiac killer. People are always attacking me, and it's frustrating. What's really frustrating for me is that I've been at this since I was 43. I'm 70 now, and I haven't had one article written in any publication about Cavalli as the Zodiac. The press in San Francisco seems to avoid him, And I haven't had one documentary made about my work. So you know, I watched while Gary Stewart, who was a fraud and a con man,
Yeah.
gets a documentary. This other guy, Baber, who views himself as a idiot savant or something, and a true crime genius or something, and he's naming the same person as the Black Dahlia killer and the Zodiac, when the profiles of those two killers are completely different. Um, you know, it's frustrating to see all these other people getting their work publicized, and me not getting any publicity from my book. In fact, my book, last time I checked, was ranked over 1 million on Amazon because nobody knows about it. You know, no, it's not publicized anywhere. So
No,
it's frustrating.
it's not fair. Yeah, yeah, I understand. It's
But
not
but
fair.
but I'm hoping to remedy that. I've been working about 3 or 4 years ago. I got an email from this guy named Jerry Doan, and I didn't know who he was. But it turns out that he is a former SFPD officer who was on patrol the night of the Stein murder. He actually searched in the park for the killer. So he was actually at the scene, and he knows the mistakes that SFPD made. And he feels that the reason I'm not getting any publicity for my work is that SFPD is covering up its mistakes and is intentionally not saying that I solved the case. And they're influencing the media because they said they got the media to believe that Zodiac was a psychotic, crazy killer who probably came out of the Tenderloin in San Francisco, as opposed to being a wealthy person who lived in, you know, the wealthiest part of San Francisco.
I think
So
this is hard to people to believe that an healthy person could be a serial killer, but I don't. Really, I don't, because my suspect was a really successful guy, and you have talked with him. I think it was, for me, it was Sandy Panzarella with Don Cheney, who was working together, but it's not my interview, it's yours. But
right. Well, I talked to Sandy Panzarella years ago. I'm trying to remember. He was talking about Arthur Lee Allen, though. He wasn't talking about himself. So I don't really remember this is years and years ago. I have notes somewhere. But I remember one thing he told me. He said that Arthur Lee Allen liked to screw with the minds of the police as much as Zodiac did. So I've always viewed Arthur Lee Allen as someone who liked being considered a Zodiac suspect and enjoyed messing with the police. But then he did it so successfully that when he wanted to say he wasn't the Zodiac, nobody believed him. So that's my opinion of Arthur Lee Allen. But yeah, I don't know much about Sandy Penn. I know that he was friends with Allen's brother Ron,
yeah,
and Cheney was too. But I don't know that much about Sandy Panzarella. Well, I got a guy. The other thing about Cavalli is that he was stopped and spoken to by SFPD. This is one of the big mistakes they're covering up. In fact, Jerry believes they stopped him. They spoke to him on the streets of Presidio Heights right after the murders, and they let him go. And I think that they're SFPD is trying to cover up these errors, and you know, not give me credit. When I came along, SFPD had two choices. They could either help me and in doing so admit their mistakes from that night, or they could screw me over and not help me and you know, cover up their mistakes. And they chose to cover up their mistakes. So I'm sort of collateral damage. It's not that they have anything against me. It's just that I'm naming a guy who you know, who they also probably believe is a Zodiac, and you know, they just are covering up their mistakes by not giving me any publicity and not giving and not in I don't know that they're intentionally influencing the newspapers, but they're influencing the newspapers because the newspapers believe that Zodiac was a crazy person from the Tenderloin, not a wealthy guy.
yeah, yeah. And it's also highly political when you see
Oh, it's
those
very political.
different jurisdictions.
San Francisco is probably the most political police department out there, and you know, when they have a guy that's in their backyard who's worth $1 million. I mean, when Cavalli died, he left $100 million fortune behind. So, you know, this guy was no run-of-the-mill millionaire. He was a very wealthy person, and people just have a difficult time accepting the fact that he was the Zodiac, even though I believe he was. And you know, it's a tough. Even though he's the mistake I made was I thought that when he died, and he died in 2013. I thought I'd be able to tell my story, but it's not turning out that way. Here we are 12 years after he died, and I'm still not able to tell my story. So, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
I wonder if Aphrodite Jones will be interested in your story because she had covered a lot of case, and also the Zodiac case of Dennis Kaufman with his stepfather Jack Terrence. Do you remember?
I've written to a lot of people about this case, and nobody seems to be interested in my suspect. So if Aphrodite Jones is watching, hi Aphrodite, I'm here and I'm ready to be interviewed. But I don't know if I don't know. I've gotten tired of writing to people. I write to so many people. I don't even get a response. I got a response from Ken Burns, who said he was too busy with his own documentary to do one on me. But
I will
other than
try
that,
to
I
put
haven't got.
you in touch.
What's that?
I will try to put you in touch with Aphrodite.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate it. If you have a connection to her, yeah. She, she's certainly someone I've heard of and someone I would speak to. But it's been very frustrating.
She was on Black Box Online Radio, Ned Dehaan.
Oh, she was. Oh, okay.
On Black Box Online Radio, my
Super.
favorite podcast.
Oh, is that Ned Dehaan?
Yeah, Ned Dehaan. Yeah.
I interviewed with him the other day. I interviewed on Thursday with him, I think it was.
Yeah.
He said he's going to put it out in a few days. I guess it's going to be out maybe tomorrow or Monday or something. Oh no! Wait! It must have been Monday. I interviewed with him because it was it was Zodiac Monday.
Zodiac Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really my favorite podcast. It's a
well. I appreciate the fact you have your own suspect, but you're going to put me in touch with Aphrodite Jones. That's nice of you.
Yeah, but you also know Aphrodite, so he can.
I mean, I think the people of San Francisco deserve to know that Cavalli is a suspect. I mean, they don't even know because it's never been any article that's written about me doesn't mention Cavalli because he was still alive, and since he's died, the Chronicle says, "Oh, we won't mention any suspect that's not mentioned as a suspect by SFPD. That's not given out as a legitimate suspect." But SFPD isn't going to mention Cavalli if they're covering up. So they're waiting for something to happen that isn't going to happen. So here I am caught in the middle, getting older, and I still don't have any publicity for my story, so that the people of San Francisco even know that Cavalli is a viable suspect. Even Tom Voigt gave him out as a viable suspect. I forgot when it was, a couple of years ago. I was on some website. I was doing an interview, and there was a chat room behind the scenes, and Tom said that Cavalli is a legitimate suspect. So.
Oh yeah. That's true.
Well, you wouldn't believe how many people think he isn't. You wouldn't believe it. You go on the message board, and there's all these people saying, "Oh, he did this, he did that. He couldn't have been the Zodiac. He wasn't there on March 13th, and all this other stuff."
Yeah, I know there is a lot of people who say that Shaul Cavalier could not be the Zodiac because of his age, of his weight, of different.
Yeah, his weight, right? His weight. Well, let's look at his weight. He said he was wearing a disguise that night. He didn't disguise his face because it looks just like Cavalli. So he must have disguised something, and one of the things would be wearing bulky stuff to look heavier than you are. And if that's what he did, it's worked for 50 years.
Yeah, the night where Mike Maggio and Darlene Ferrin was attacked.
Oh yeah.
Mike Maggio was wearing multiple layer of.
Right. Yeah, that's true. People did it.
Yeah, so why not the Zodiac?
The one thing I've always wondered about Maggio is that he was sort of shrewd. He knew that the killer was still out there. So I don't know that he actually described the person that he saw the way he saw him, because he might have felt like if he described him to a T, he might come after him again. So I don't really know about Maggio and his description about a young guy in his 20s or something with a fat face, and he might have described the opposite of what he saw in order to not get the guy mad at him, so he didn't come after him again.
Maybe to be too afraid about that. Yeah.
And he might have been too fearful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Hello, Fire Pixie.
What's that?
I say hi to people in the chat.
Oh. Okay, I thought you said Pixie. I was wondering why you're calling me Pixie.
No,
I got you.
no, it's somebody whose name is nickname is
I
Fire Pixie
I got you.
3820.
I
And
got you.
so now we know a little bit more about Mr. Michael Rodelli.
Well, maybe I should tell you. Maybe we should go back a little bit. I had a master's degree in oceanography. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like oceanography was my calling when I got into it. I didn't really feel like lab work, especially, was my calling. So I got out of that, and I was working at the dead end job, and then I got into the Zodiac case. Now, I never thought that the Zodiac case would become my calling. Would become the thing that would take over 25 years of my life. But you never know where life is going to lead you. I mean,
Never.
it led me down this path. And I feel like a broken record telling people Cavalli was a Zodiac and nobody listens. But I still believe it. And now I have Jerry Doan in my corner, who wrote 2 books supporting my research. One Night in October is the first book, and the second book is Flirting with the Execution. And now Jerry and I disagree about the profile of Zodiac. He views him more as an anger killer. I view him, because of my work with Richard Walter, as a power killer. But other than that, I mean, we do agree that Cavalli was the Zodiac. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm 100% agree with you. It's a shame that you don't have the opportunity to tell your story, and other people, other researchers who have done the same work as you, even less than you,
Right.
at the publicity that you don't have. And even if people are not agree with you, you deserve that. You deserve to have this opportunity to
Well, maybe
put Cavalli.
Aphrodite Jones will change that.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I will try. I will try.
I appreciate
I
it.
will.
Appreciate it.
And
Anybody you can contact who would be interested would be great. That's
yeah,
Aphrodite
any
Jones
producer,
or
yeah,
others.
any producer or any people in the media who are looking now at this
Right.
video, we are here with
Yeah,
Mr. Mike Rodelli. He has
I'm
a
open for
suspect
business.
that you have never heard.
Right.
He
That's the other
writes
thing is that,
2 books.
right. It's sort of good because nobody's ever heard of him. He comes out of the blue, but
Yeah,
he's a good suspect.
yeah. And so, if you agree, could we start with Jerry Joe Bates? Your thought about Jerry Joe Bates murder?
Our thoughts about who?
Jerry Joe Bates.
Oh, Sherry Joe Bates.
Excuse
When
me.
I first started, I thought that Bates was a Zodiac victim. But in working with Richard Walter, I ran the crime by Walter, and he was unable to make any definitive statements about it because he needed to see the police files, which were not available to him. But he felt that in Walter's world, there's 4 different types of killers. There's power assertive, which is what Zodiac was; power reassurance, which is like a gentleman rapist who might rape you and then say, was I good, or was I as good as your boyfriend, or whatever. And then there's anger retaliatory, which is someone who's killing people who remind him of someone, like maybe if Zodiac was a anger retaliatory, he might have known somebody who Bates reminded him of her, and so he killed her. And the 4th type is anger excitation, which is a sexual sadist, which is a whole different ball game from any of the Zodiac crimes or the Bates murder. So Walter felt that the person who killed Bates was either a power reassurance killer who tried to endear himself to Bates by screwing up her car and then saying, I'll help you, I'll take you to my car and we'll go and get help, or an anger retaliatory killer. Neither one of those is a power assertive, which is what Zodiac was. So since Walter disagreed with with Bates being as a victim of the Zodiac, that's my position, because I accept what Walter said, because I think his profile of Zodiac is very good, and I think that it hits on many of the points that people made about Zodiac, like being condescending, superior, aloof, distant. All those things fall under the umbrella of a power assertive killer. So I think his profile of Zodiac is right. So I have to go with his profile of the Bates killer. So the one person I think might be interesting for Bates is um, what's his name? Kelly, Bud Kelly, because
But
years later it turns out that he was molesting his daughter and the other girl or something like that, and he's in prison for it. But he was also on the scene of the Bates murder, and I thought I heard years ago, and I can't remember where I heard this. Somebody from RPD or somewhere saying that the hairs that were found in Sherry Joe Bates' hand might have blown off the head of one of the investigators at the scene. And I'm wondering if they said that because it matched one of the investigators, Bud Kelly, and they assumed that he couldn't be the murderer. So they came up with a scenario. I don't know if Bud Kelly's nuclear and mitochondrial DNA has ever been compared to the problem with Riverside is that they don't tell you anything. Like, we don't know if there's any nuclear DNA from the hairs of Bates' hand.
no,
We don't know a lot about the Bates murder. And they also tried to say that some kid who was a kid at the time wrote the Bates had to die letters and that they proved it. Well,
yeah, the
they
tree,
certainly, in the press release that they gave out, they certainly didn't prove anything. They were able to prove that the kid wrote the letter by doing genetic genealogy, whatever, to find the person who wrote the letter. But they didn't tell you how they showed that the kid had written the Bates had to die letters. And if they did, there must be DNA or something from those letters that shows that he wrote them. So they're holding back, and I don't trust RPD as far as I can throw them. I think that they're covering up something. Maybe they're covering up the fact that they wouldn't want to have to admit that Bud Kelly was the killer all along, because that would be embarrassing to them. So they might be covering up things that, just like SFPD may be covering up things.
yeah, maybe the fact they are completely incompetent.
Yeah, they don't want to admit that they're incompetent. So they make up stuff. But I think that they try to. Their goal has always been to make sure Zodiac doesn't appear in the conversation about the case. And my understanding is that their local suspect, Bob Barnett, he's called. That's not his real name, but his name is close to Bob Barnett. That his DNA didn't match the DNA from the hairs in her hand in 2001 or something. And so I think he's been eliminated, but they don't admit that.
No, it's always tough to know if the police tell you the truth or not.
Ugh, tell me about it. I'm going through that with SFPD because I came forward to SFPD in 2012, 10 years after they were allegedly eliminated Cavalli with DNA, which we now know is useless.
Yes.
And they I don't know if I can believe what they said. I know they told me that they were sending 2 people out to talk to Cavalli, and they told me they were going to cut me out of the investigational loop because I was a civilian. So I didn't get to learn any of this except a long time afterwards. That they sent 2 people out to Cavalli's home to ask him if he would cooperate with them in an investigation. I assume now that they told him that he was just a witness, just like the night of the Stein murder when Pelicetti said he was a witness or a potential witness who didn't see anything. And they went back to him and with the story that he was a witness and that they want to know if he would cooperate. He said yes, and then by the time they got back to the station house, someone had called either his attorneys or his family and said no, he wouldn't cooperate. And since he wouldn't cooperate, that was the end of the investigation. But that's silly because you don't end an investigation because the suspect won't cooperate. If they won't cooperate, you talk to their friends, their family, their business associates. You get to make them uncomfortable so they know that if they don't talk to you, if they don't talk to you, you're going to embarrass them because you're going to call them the Zodiac and to all these people that they know by asking them questions. So, I don't know what to believe now.
Agree.
What's that?
100% agree with you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, they said, oh, when he wouldn't cooperate, we had to terminate the investigation. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It never made any sense to me because even though I'm not a police investigator, I know that if Shel Cavalli said, I'm not going to talk to you, then I would go to his friends, his family, his business associates, his employees, and find out what they may know. And in doing so, word's getting back to him that, hey, someone asked me if you were the Zodiac killer, to get him to change his tune and cooperate. So that, yeah, that's him with the horse. That's from the 1960s. When we showed that picture to Lindsay Robbins, he almost had a heart attack.
Yeah.
He said that Cavalli was Lindsay Robbins was an interesting story because he's deceased now. He died in 2015, I think. And he said that what he said was that he could not give his opinion as to whether Cavalli was a Zodiac or not, even after Cavalli died, because a family member was a close friend of his. Now, you have to think about that statement. If he thought that Cavalli wasn't the Zodiac, he could say that at any time. It wouldn't matter. But if he thought that Cavalli was the Zodiac, that's when that comes into play.
Yeah.
So to me, he was telling us he thought that Cavalli was the Zodiac, even though he wasn't telling us. It's because he couldn't say anything even after the guy died. Well, that would mean that you think he's the Zodiac, but he can't say anything. I don't think he was the Zodiac, because then everybody would be happy, and the family would be said that. So, but unfortunately, I can't ask Lindsay any more questions. He's deceased.
Yeah. Yeah,
but he thought
the thing.
When he looked at that picture of Cavalli, he said that was the closest he had ever seen to the person that he saw kill the cab driver.
And we are talking Presidio Heights, the killing of Paul Stein, who occurred on October 11.
You can see how Cavalli has a receding hairline. When Falk said he had a widow's peak, I asked Falk what he meant by that, and he didn't mean a widow's peak. He meant that was the term his mother used for receding hairline. So Cavalli has a receding hairline, and he looks a lot like the revised sketch.
Yeah, and he has some button on his pocket.
Right, that's the other thing I noticed about his. Is that he wasn't averse to wearing buttons on his lapel buttons, and then Zodiac, out of the blue, asked for people to wear lapel buttons
Want
that
to
have
have
a
nice
name or
Zodiac
likeness or a
buttons,
symbol
yeah.
on them. So
Yeah.
that's another little piece of the puzzle.
So we were here on Riverside, which the police.
Yeah, I don't think Bates was killed by Zodiac. I think the Zodiac my suspect was down there that weekend, and I think he was influenced by her murder. Maybe he copied the handwriting. Maybe he copied the fact that there were three. Well, that's a year. Let's see, a year later. He might have been paying attention to what was going on in Riverside and noticed that a year later there were 3 letters mailed to 3 different people, and he did that when he sent his own first letters. I mean, there are a lot of ways in which he could have been influenced by the. But I do think the killer wrote the confession letter because of the details that are in there, especially about the call to the police. Now, RPD has never confirmed that there was a call made to them or to the police chief or whoever the night of the murder. They never confirmed that. So, we don't know if that happened, but if it did, then I think that the killer wrote that letter. And the style of writing is so different from Zodiac that, Zodiac was more like Mike Kelleher said. Zodiac was more, he enumerated 1, 2, 3. This is what he wanted. And this is more of a fantasy letter, like something creative writing or something. So I think that the person who killed her probably wrote the confession letter, but I don't think that he wrote the Bates had to die letters.
No, I don't think so neither. No. So anything else to say about Riverside?
Well, I'm trying to think.
Take your time. Like I told you here, people know
another thing. Another thing about Riverside is when they investigated the case, they took elimination prints from the mechanics who worked on the car. Their fingerprints were in the compartment, the engine compartment. Just because their fingerprints belong there doesn't mean that they weren't the killer. I mean, it could have been a mechanic. We don't know who it was, but it could have been a mechanic whose fingerprints would have been expected to be found in the car anyway, and who also killed her and got his fingerprints in the car from killing her. So I would have paid more attention to the mechanics at the time
Yeah.
Because I think that there's a possibility that the fingerprints from the back of the car might have been from the killer.
Yeah, and it's really new interesting point, because a lot of time you heard people talking about the the watch, the Timex watches with the paint retrieve on Cherry Joe.
Yeah, I'd like to know how that. Somebody said that that watch was traced to the military, to a military base or something, to a PX or something. I'd like to know how the heck they did that, because it was such a common watch. How could they
Yeah,
trace it anywhere?
Timex. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The- Timex compared to in Europe, Timex compared to the Zodiac watch was, let's say, the the cheaper Zodiac watch you can have. It's a Timex. You see?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I wouldn't. I don't know. The watch. The interesting thing is that I was told that the watch was stopped. I think when you read Graysmith, he said the watch was
Yeah,
stopped.
yeah,
But then there's a picture taken later where it's at a different time, so it couldn't have been
yeah,
stopped.
yeah. But
So
there is a lot of BS in Robert Graysmith's book.
yeah, right. I didn't realize that was part of it. So years
Yes,
later, when
no
someone
fun.
sent me I think a girl from France or somewhere from Europe or something sent a picture of the watch at a different time, and I was surprised because I thought that because I always thought the watch had stopped at 12:22 or 12:23, and it
That,
hadn't apparently stopped.
yeah, I know. But yeah, it's really strange. There is a
Well,
lot of things that are
the
really
reason I got screwed over on that, I'll tell you the reason. I came up with this theory that I now renounce, that there was called there was a radian. There was a thing called Riverside in the radian, and I'm trying to remember what it was. 122 to 123. I think the time on the watch was the supplement to the to something to the radian angle, and it made 180 degrees, and it linked Riverside to the Zodiac murders, and so that's why I came up with that theory. But to find out that the watch wasn't stopped at 12:23, then it doesn't mean anything, because it just happened to be the time it was photographed.
yeah,
I don't really
yeah,
remember my theory. It was something to do with 122 to 123. 57 to 58 would be the supplement. I'm trying to remember now. I can't remember. But at any rate,
Take your
I wrote
time.
this whole.
Take your
No,
time.
I don't think I'll remember it. I know there was a 57 to 58 degree. Oh, I know. The 57 to 58 is the radian. I know. If you
Yeah,
take
58. Yeah,
the time 122 to
57.
123 and add it to 57 to 58, you come up with 180 each time, and that makes a straight line, and that connects Riverside to San Francisco or something. But I don't stand by that theory anymore, because the watch wasn't stopped. If the watch was stopped, I would stand by it, but it wasn't
No, that's
stopped.
true. That's true. There is no definitive answer about that question. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And what do
It's
you think about Ross Sullivan being the killer of Cherry Joe Bates?
I think that he's a good possibility. I was trying to think of his name before. I couldn't think of it. But Ross Sullivan, I think, is a good candidate for being the Riverside murderer, but not the Zodiac. He lived in
No,
like
no, no, no.
Santa Clara or something, like 20 something. There was some documentary that was done on him which said he lived like, I don't know, 20 something miles from San Francisco. And this is how he knew Presidio Heights. That's ridiculous. If someone lives 20 something miles away or 40 miles or whatever it was, they're not going to know Presidio Heights. And I think that whoever Zodiac was, he knew Presidio Heights very well. One of the detectives from SFPD told me that 95% of the people in San Francisco don't know where Presidio Heights is, because it's so far off of the beaten path of downtown, where you know everything. But Presidio Heights is way out west, and he said that most people don't know about it. So whoever Zodiac was, he had a specific knowledge of Presidio Heights, and of course, to live there would give you a very specific knowledge of Presidio Heights.
Yeah, that's true. Sullivan didn't drive. Zodiac drove. Yeah, it's Ross from Planet X film.
I think that from my own perspective, what happened was Zodiac originally gave the intersection of Washington and Maple. At Washington and Maple, you have four corners, one of which is Le Petit Trianon on the northwest corner, but that's set back in the off the street, so you wouldn't have a good sight line to the same corner at Presidio Heights, where same corner of Washington and Maple as he killed at Washington and Cherry. If he were to park at the same corner, the house at on the northwest corner, Le Petit Trianon wouldn't have very much of a sight line to it. Same thing for the house in front of which he parked directly. That's an L-shaped house, and the L is in the back, so it would have been a very difficult sight line. There were trees involved and things like that, so I think that would have been very difficult to see. The only two houses are the houses across the street where people could have seen him. And depending on, I know that the one house was occupied by the gardener who lived there, because the lady had died and left him the house, or left him a car or something like that. And so really the only house, and if they were living in the servants' quarters, which were on Maple Street, they wouldn't have had a good line of sight to the murders. So the only house that really represented the threat was on the southwest corner. So that's three corners basically that you can eliminate. And I think that Cavalli meant to kill there. That's why he gave that intersection. And then if he would have gone down the hill, and if you've been to Presidio Heights, you know that the hill between Jackson and Washington on Maple is very steep. So he could have run down that hill or walked briskly down that hill and been home before anyone even knew anyone was killed. So I think that he planned to kill at Washington and Maple, but something messed up his plans. Either someone came up around the corner with a dog or something, and so he had to go a block further. Instead of aborting the mission, he kept going. And I think he parked in front of the Robbins house because he knew that they would be at the Belgian embassy that night. He didn't go, obviously, if he was a murderer, but he knew that the parents were away and only kids were left behind. And it's just a chance opening of a window curtain that, if it hadn't gotten hot in that room, Lindsay wouldn't have opened up the window. So it's just a chance occurrence that anyone saw anything. And Rebecca was very clear about the fact that she never felt that Zodiac looked up at the window where she was watching. So she doesn't even know that he knew she was there, even though she was backlit. It was a lit room. She was in the window. And, but she felt that Zodiac never looked that way.
No, so, I think he was not paying attention.
He was not paying attention. I don't think, because I think that he felt that he was invisible. He was Zodiac. And you could tell by the way he walked away. He just walked away casually from the crime scene. If I thought the police might be coming because someone was watching me, I'd be sprinting up Cherry Street. He just walked up Cherry Street, walked down Jackson Street, and allowed himself to be confronted from the front by a police car. If he thought the police were coming, he knew that he had been seen. You think he'd be ducking behind a car or crouching, but he just walked right into the police car, and it just so happened that they were looking for a black suspect at the time. So, that's a whole nother story. But Falk apparently didn't speak to him. According to what Falk says, he didn't speak to him. Whether he did speak to him or not, if he did speak to him, Zodiac would know this: the cops stopped me and they let me go. So when he got home, there would have been no reason for him to get back on the streets, because he would have thought that he wasn't seen at the crime scene. And if he was, they weren't looking for anyone that looked like him. No. So that's why people say, oh, Cavalli wouldn't have gotten back on the streets so fast. Well, why not? If you already had a confrontation with the police and you talked to them right up near the car and they didn't stop you, they asked you if you saw anything, that would mean that they're not looking for you. He doesn't know they're looking for a black suspect, but he just knows that they're not looking for him.
No, yeah, and in the same time, it's more power for him to have this confrontation. It's more power for him.
Oh yeah, right. It's exactly. It's more power to escape the police. Right. That's the other thing, is that Richard Walter. In fact, when I said that Zodiac was scared that night and that's why he didn't kill anybody else, Richard Walter took the exact opposite, and he said that he got 2 doses of power that night: one from evading Falcon's Elms and one from being confronted by Pellicetti and getting away from that encounter. So he got 2 doses of power that night. That's why he didn't need to kill anymore, because he already got such a big dose of power from that night.
So, do you think that it stopped because he had enough?
I think that it stopped because, well, I'm going to go with Richard Walter again. He said that Zodiac got enough of a dose of power that night, and that's what he was after. And I think that he probably realized that there was chance involved, or there was danger involved in killing more people. So he was just contented with writing letters.
Yeah. Instead to kill people.
But I don't think he stopped. I don't think he stopped out of fear. I think he stopped out of an accumulation of power.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there is a lot of things to say about the Polstein crime, and yeah, everything. But can we go to the first canonical crime?
Well, let me go back. Let me go back to Stein for a moment. Pelicetti has been an antagonist of mine. He's been an antagonist of mine since I started. And I remember in 2003, I was trying to find Falk, and I think I called him Falks at the time, because that's what Graysmith calls him, with an S. It's not Falks, it's Falk. But I wrote to all the Pelicettis that I could find in San Francisco, because I figured that maybe if I found him, he would know how to get in touch with Falk. And I got in touch with his sister. I forget her name now, but she said that she wouldn't give me his phone number, but he would call me if he was interested in talking to me. And he called me I remember the date because it was my father's birthday, January 12th, like 2004 or something like that. He called me just as we were going out to a place to eat for my father's birthday. And he said that Cavalli had an alibi and he was cleared, but he wouldn't tell me what that alibi was. Turns out the alibi is that Pelicetti spoke to him and allegedly cleared him. And that's what the alibi was. But Pelicetti wouldn't tell me what the alibi was. I had to find out because in 2006, 2 years later, he spoke to Mike Butterfield, and he admitted to Mike Butterfield that he had stopped Cavalli and spoken to him and let him go. So he was providing Cavalli with his alibi. Pelicetti was, but I had a friend. Pelicetti would not speak to me. I didn't feel that it was appropriate for me to call him, because I didn't think that Pelicetti would speak to me. He was so sarcastic and so nasty to me. He wished me good luck, and he was very sarcastic towards me. So I had my friend Jim speak to him, and then I had another friend of mine call him, and I had him record the conversation. I shouldn't have said that, because Pelicetti's still alive, but he did record the conversation. And in that conversation, Pelicetti changed his story. He said that he first saw Cavalli in his own front yard, in Cavalli's front yard, not at the Washington and Maple. So that means that Pelicetti would have had to walk further down the block to see Cavalli, and Cavalli would have only had to make it into his front yard, not to Maple Street, after the murders. So I think that he destroyed his own timeline. And part of the alibi was the timeline. How could Cavalli get home, clean up, get the dog on the leash, and get out to Washington and Maple? We didn't have to get there, not Washington, but Jackson and Maple. And Pelicetti now placed himself further east on Jackson than we thought, east of Maple. And he's seen Cavalli in his own front yard, which is at 3636 Jackson Street, which is further east on Maple and Cavalli has supposedly had to get all the way west to Jackson and Maple, which he didn't have to now. So anyway, there's that change in alibi. There's that change in where Pelicetti saw him.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think I talk about that in my book. I think.
Yeah. You do?
I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. You talk a lot about Presidio Heights. There is a lot of
my
work
suspect lived there.
behind.
My suspect lived there, so. Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work over many years.
Oh yeah, I can believe you, because when I read it, it was I was really impressed by, like I told you, your way to writing and the evidence, the circumstantial evidence
Right.
that you
Well,
brought.
there are a lot of people that write books that don't have anything in them. You know, they didn't do the research I did. They just they just say I think that my brother-in-law was a Zodiac, and
Yeah,
and that that's pretty much it. But
yeah, that's
I
why
put a
it
lot of work.
became.
I put a lot of proof into that book.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And when you read it, and I really recommend you to have it, because me, I really like paper books. I really like to have a real book in my hand and take the time to read
Right.
it. Plus, you have a lot of picture in it, and it's really, really pleasant to read. And but you can also have the Kindle version if you prefer that. But I
One thing
highly
I'm
recommend
embarrassed
you.
about. One thing I'm embarrassed about is when I talk about Blue Rock Springs, I said that the killer went up to the driver's side of the car. I don't know why I said that. That was my fault. But
No, but
I guess you can't be perfect. But I think that I pretty much
no.
hit everything else. One thing nobody ever talks about is the bus bombs.
Ah,
And I'm
yeah,
really
yeah,
proud.
yeah,
I'm really proud of them, especially the first one because,
yeah.
like I said,
Because you tied
yeah,
the bus bomb to Presidio Heights, and it's really
yeah,
clever. It's really, really
yeah.
clever.
um, I didn't. I didn't start by saying that okay, this is Cavalli's house, and we're going to work our way backwards. I literally started by noticing that there was a comparison between the Presidio Heights map and the bus bomb. And then when I drew in the streets with the bags of fertilizer, I ended up with a house that looks like it was sitting on the north side of Jackson Street. It was separated by this from the street by two parallel things. And I realized that Cavalli's house, Ken Narlow went and took, because I wasn't sure at that point, like I could put in 3636 Jackson Street, but I wasn't sure which house it was on the internet. So Ken went into Presidio Heights he went into San Francisco one day and he took pictures of the house, and it turns out that Cavalli's is the house that was set in off the street. So I think that that's a map of Presidio Heights which leads to Cavalli's house. In other words, it's a clue. Everyone thinks it's a bus bomb, but it's actually a clue. And that just blew my mind because I never expected the Zodiac was sending such specific clues to who he was. And then the second bus bomb, and then when I showed that bus bomb to Mike Kelleher, he was extremely impressed. And he said, "Can you come up with a similar solution to the second bus bomb?" And I said, "No, I can't." And it took me like 2.5 years after that to finally realize that it's sort of like a Rebus puzzle. It's pictures, golf green, a car battery, different things that relate to Cavalli's life, mapped to his father's house and all this other stuff. So yeah, I think that if I'm right, Zodiac really sent us a lot of clues to his identity, but nobody knew what they were.
Yeah, and I agree on the fact that why the Zodiac must be somebody nasty who don't have life, who don't have jobs. That's maybe why he was never caught, because nobody have looking for somebody healthy, really somebody who have a lot of money, and maybe in their mind it was impossible that this kind of person could commit this crime. But when you see the world today, you see the elite of the world making horrible things to childs. There is a lot of powerful people who are pedo, you know, and
Yeah.
so it doesn't surprise me at all that the Zodiac could be somebody really powerful with a lot of money, a businessman, with millionaire,
A lot of time on his hands too to write the
and
codes and
about
write the
that, talk to me about the date. the date of the murder compare to
Oh
the date of
gosh,
Claude Cavales?
there's so many dates that match him. It's unbelievable. Yeah, his mother
Because
died on
it's
December 20th.
incredible.
The first murders in Lake Herman Row were on December 20th. His father was born on September 27th. The Lake Berryessa crimes occurred on September 27th. And when I went to meet him in 2006, I got out there in August and I was ready to meet him. And he kept putting off the date. He kept changing the date. And we decided on September 22nd, which was a Friday. And then I received Friday. Then I received a call from his office, and his secretary said he would be out of town that weekend, which he wasn't, because he was at Golden Gate Fields Racetrack doing a seminar on horse ownership. But she asked if we could postpone to the next Wednesday, and I said sure. I didn't give it any thought until Monday. I was in the doctor's office, and I was sitting there waiting for the doctor, and I started thinking, okay, 2 days before the big confrontation. And I realized that was the 25th, and I realized that he had changed the date to the 27th of September, which was his father's birthday again. And, little things like that made me feel like he was the Zodiac.
Yeah, but
I mean, a lot of things
it's
that he
good
said in the meeting.
coincidence. If
People
it's
could just say, "Oh, it's a
coincidence, it's really
coincidence."
good
That's what he said.
coincidence.
Oh, it's just a scheduling coincidence. Yeah, he laughed.
Oh yeah. Oh no, no, no. Me, I don't judge. I just say if it's coincidence, yeah, it's really strange.
Really
But
weird, especially since he changed the date so many. He changed the date a few times. I don't remember how
yeah,
many times. I was originally supposed to go with him to Golden Gate Fields. I assumed he was going to drive and have lunch with him at the racetrack. And I'm thinking to myself, why would he want to have lunch with me at the racetrack with all his friends there? Me asking him whether he's a Zodiac killer or not. It didn't make any sense. But I agreed to anything he said, and I said sure. But then he changed that to the Friday, and then he changed it to a Wednesday,
yeah.
which was the
And
27th.
Shaul Cavale, for people who don't know, was really a guy who loved speed, and he was a lot in a race
Yeah.
car and a lot in a horse too. So it's
It's
can
funny. I
you
was reading the other.
something?
I was reading the other day about a guy named Rex Ellsworth. I think his name was, because I read the horse racing threads on the internet, and I said, "Gee, it's funny because he sold a horse to my suspect for $500,000. It was lame. Cavalli bought They made big headlines about it because he had cars entered at Indy, and he had this horse that he just bought. He was going to be entering into the Jersey Derby, $100,000 race in New Jersey, in South Jersey, not South Jersey, but I forget where the track is gone now. I forget the name of it, but there's going to be a race
Oh,
in
it
New Jersey."
doesn't
And
matter.
he bought the horse for he bought one horse for $500,000, which was outrageous at the time.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
turns
yeah.
out the horse was lame. And Ellsworth just said, "Hey, what can we do? It's business. Business is business." So Cavalli had to swallow spending $500,000 on a horse that never ran.
And about the car, he was the first importer of the
Of,
Volkswagen,
of the
and
of the right.
you,
He was a big. That's the thing that makes irony out of his letter to the editor. The letter to the editor where Ed said he mentioned Hitler. He was mentioning all the ills of Hitler and how bad it would be to have another Hitler come along, and yet at the same time he's selling Hitler's car, the Volkswagen, making millions of dollars.
yeah,
But he's also railing against Hitler. So to me that was either at least hypocrisy, if not irony. And of
yeah,
course,
and
Zodiac loved irony.
duality. Yeah, 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 a lot because he played dumb, but he was not dumb. You see, so
Right, right, exactly.
I don't know if you can see the question in the chat.
No, it's very small. What is it?
No, so I'm going to read to you. Anyone
Yeah, go
can
ahead.
search on newspaper database and will find that Cavale was in Geneva less than 40 hours before the Zodiac letter from Police Santo to Los Angeles was mailed, but with a little bit of additional research and cross-referring article before and after the Geneva car show actually show that Cavalli flew from Geneva to Britain to tour the, the Fiat factory, to tour the Fiat factory.
Is that it?
So
I've been trying to do. I've been
it
trying
was
to do
it was,
research on this.
it was not. There is again one phrase. So Cavalli can be Zodiac because he would not have been in the US to post the letter.
Okay,
He could have
I'm going to
an
go back.
accomplice.
I'm going to have two answers for that. First of all, going back to 1999, in July of 1999, I remember I was driving with my father somewhere, and I realized that there may be two people at work in the Zodiac case. A letter writer, because Gilbert and Sullivan are two people. And I thought that the reference to that might be two people. So it's
Yep.
possible that Zodiac had an accomplice who would have mailed that letter. The second thing is, we don't know exactly when Cavalli left England. If he would have left England by like 2 in the afternoon on the 12th, because you gain 8 hours, it's a four. I think it's a 12-hour flight, or I forget if it's 12 or 14 hours. It's like a 12-hour flight with a refueling stop, and then you gain 8 hours. He would have gotten home in time, I think, to be able to jump in the car if he had driven himself to the airport, jump in the car, take the San Mateo Bridge, and get into Pleasanton in the morning to mail the letter. So to me, it's still an open question. But this is the type of thing that people do to me. I have all this evidence that proves that Cavalli was Zodiac, and they find one little thing. They say, well, he
Yeah.
can't be Zodiac because he was out of the country.
Yeah.
Well,
and the rest, and all the rest.
I remember Ken Narlow told me that even when you find the right person, you won't be able to explain every single thing about him. Everything won't match.
No.
So
Even when we know the guy, we know, for example, Jeffrey Dahmer.
and if that was Jerry B, I want to say, hi, Jerry B. It's nice to see you, because Jerry B is the one who's always bringing up stuff like this on the internet. Go ahead.
What I was saying. I don't remember. So
That's all right. All right. What's the next question?
yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of questions, and people send me some challenge question for you. At the end, if you agree to answer, you are not obliged. There is no obligation of nothing here. You do everything what you want, and you take all the time you want to do everything you want to. And I gave
Okay.
this opportunity to everybody. Yeah, one time the book is wow, great. Even if I don't think Cavalier was Zodiac, it's a great book. A lot of research, a lot of. You see that the guy is really in it. I'm talking about you, Mike. You can see that the guy is really in it. It's not a joke. It's not 5 weeks of research. It's not. No, it's 20 years, 25
Yeah,
years
it
of
says
his life.
20-something years of research. 22
Yeah,
years of research, whatever it was at the time.
yeah, and it's not nothing. And for that, you deserve respect and to be heard like anyone else. Ready, ready.
Thank
So
you.
if we have a question here. What does he make of the Philips 60 map? 66 map. Sorry.
What does that mean? I mean, I think, what do I make of it?
What does
That's
he
all. That's all
make
the question is.
of the Philips 66 map?
I don't know.
And radian and inch.
It cuts off something that has to do with the radian or something. I don't really know what that question means, to be honest with you.
Oh, the Philips 66 map is the
I know what
is
it
the
is. It's just that I can't think of
Diablo map.
what they
Yeah.
mean. What do I make of it? I mean,
And Reagan and
He says
Inch.
that he said that the indicator should be set to magnetic north or something, and magnetic north was 17 degrees different from true north at the time.
Yeah.
And 17 is the 17th letter of the alphabet is Q, which would possibly stand for Cavalli. That's the only thing I think that I have on that map.
Yeah, because you talk about Mon Diablo and Cavalli and the relation he can have.
Oh yeah,
with-
well Mount Diablo was where he held the hill climb race in
Yeah.
1949. I now know. So it's funny when you're at Lake Herman Road, specifically at that crime scene. I know that the Mount Diablo was visible from all over the Bay Area, but when you're at Lake Herman Road, and you're looking from the crime scene. You're looking south. The only thing you can see is Mount Diablo. So it almost puts it in relief that that's an important landmark to Zodiac. And then of course he sends the map with the Mount Diablo on it and the Mount Diablo letter, which cements his interest in Mount Diablo.
What do you think about the first attack, Betulu Jensen and David Faraday, about the psychology of Cavalli at this time?
Well, I think that the crime scene was something that he would have driven because going back to 1948, there's an article about him in the San Francisco Chronicle. In fact, it's August 1st, 1948, the same date that Zodiac wanted his first coverage in the San Francisco Chronicle.
Yeah.
But it shows him driving the back roads of Mill Bray. Now, you can imagine if you're driving a British sports car and you want to put it through its paces, you can't do that on Market Street. You have to go into the back roads. So I think that Cavalli was familiar with the back roads, and he probably knew about that Lover's Lane because of his activity on the back roads with sports cars. The murders, I think it's interesting that the entire name Shel Cavalli is anagrammed in the word Vallejo. Now, I know that crime wasn't in Vallejo, but the second one he committed was definitely in Vallejo. And the word Shel Cavalli, Shel and Cavalli, are both anagrammed in the word Vallejo, except for the K and the Q.
Yeah.
Now, the murders were narrowed down to between 11:14 and 11:20, and right in the middle of that is 11:17, which is the K and the Q that you're missing for the word Shel Cavalli. So I think that I always found that interesting. The murders occurred on the date his mother died on December 20th, and also the sister city relationship between Vallejo and Trondheim. At the time of in fact, what's really weird is that when you look at the article in the next day's Vallejo Times Herald about the Jensen Faraday murders, there's an article about sister city relationships. And the only sister city that Vallejo had at the time of the Zodiac murder on Lake Herman Road was Trondheim, Norway. So to me, that's a clue to where he was born. So I think that there were a lot of clues that were left at Lake Herman Road, even though they're kind of obscure.
I knew that Valero had sister in the world, but I didn't know that the first one was in Norway.
The first and only one at the time that they were considering a city in Japan as a second sister city. But at the time of the Zodiac murder, the only sister city that Vallejo had was Trondheim, Norway. And that's where Cavalli was born.
It's crazy. Really?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you wouldn't expect it. You know, someone told me about it years ago, and I was shocked. I didn't find it out on my own. I remember someone telling me about that years ago. I have to get a drink. I'll be right back.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time. We are here in family. Hi, everybody in the chat. Thank you, even people who are not in the chat. Thank you to be here tonight or this morning. It depends. Could be anytime. And it's great to see you again. You see, there is no more fancy stuff because I don't have the money to pay a StreamYard account. It's $500. $500.
Okay.
I can pay that $500 for a year of membership in StreamYard to have funny, fancy stuff.
You
No,
can pay me $500.
and it doesn't matter. Yeah. So, on my understanding, you don't pay so much attention to the handwriting.
To the what?
To the handwriting.
I've gotten Cavalli's handwriting off of his. I have handwriting from two places for Cavalli. First is from horse racing applications that I have. And, there are certain letters that he makes that look similar and certain letters that he makes that don't look similar. So I've always felt that either Zodiac had an accomplice who was writing the letters or that he was able to change his handwriting. So I don't base my suspicions of Cavalli on handwriting.
No. Because there is a lot of people who think that this is really hard to change the way you are writing, but
it is hard to
think
change. I'm not saying, but there are people who have done it successfully. I mentioned one in my book from the 1800s who could write in different hands at command, by command or something like that. So it's rare, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but no, I don't accuse Cavalli because of handwriting.
No. And it's not an exact science either.
Right.
Somebody say, I think.
I mean, if Zodiac were to be caught by handwriting, I think we would have been caught by now. I mean, I remember someone telling me a story where Lloyd Cunningham, who's like the expert on Zodiac's handwriting right now, he was doing some handwriting analysis for another reason, for a will. And he was looking at the handwriting on the will, and he realized that the handwriting was very close to Zodiac's. And so he brought the handwriting to a convention of handwriting experts. And he put the two handwritings up and he said, how many people here believe that the handwriting in specimen A is similar to specimen B? And they all raised their hands. Then he put the Zodiac's handwriting up and they said, this is the Zodiac killer's handwriting. How many think that the writing in the will is similar to Zodiac's handwriting? And nobody put their hand up because nobody wants to be wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong because that would ruin their reputation. So
True.
When you try to get them out on the limb to say, is this handwriting close to Zodiac's? Nobody will do it. So I don't know how they're gonna solve the case using handwriting. I just don't see it happening.
No, not in this case. Me neither. No. In some case, it could be when you see I think you are interested by the John Bennett Ramsey case.
Right. Yeah, I went to that guy. There's a guy in Massachusetts or something. He looked at the handwriting for the defense, and he said, no, that handwriting doesn't match. Patsy Ramsey's handwriting doesn't match. Then the police sent it to him, and he said it matched. And he said, if you'll pay me, I'll say it matched. So I mean, it's like
really,
yeah, something like that. If the defense is paying me, I'll say one thing. If the prosecution is paying me, I'll say another thing. So he destroyed his credibility of that, and he went through Cavalli's book and said it was written by a few different people or something. His autobiography, and it's funny. I sent him a copy of the book, and after he was done trashing it, he never sent it back, so he kept it.
I think you cannot trust this kind of people.
No. Because my understanding is that he came down on Patsy Ramsey not writing the letter, and then he was willing to come down on the side of Patsy Ramsey writing the letter, depending on who was paying the bills.
And during all this year, those 25 years, have you received help from other people who believe you are right, or maybe?
Oh yeah. I have like 5 or 6, 7 different people that I can name off the top of my head. But yeah,
You
I've
can name
received a lot
them.
of the support. Well, look at the reviews on my book. I mean, my book is getting well reviewed, so there's a lot of people who think I've done a good job. Um, and
Oh
of
yeah.
course, that includes having the right suspect. But yeah, there's a guy in the Netherlands, another guy out in Martinez, California. Um, there's another guy in Wisconsin. In fact, he just got license plates KQZK 68 to 69. He just got license plates on his car that say that Cavalli was a Zodiac. So he obviously believes. Yeah, there are people who have supported me. Fewer people have written to me that don't support me. I guess I've received a couple, but most of the people that write are positive.
Yeah, which is something good, which is really something good. But you will
Yeah,
always have people to criticize your work, always because of jealousy, or or no, maybe not, but you always have this kind of people who want to criticize.
yeah, I know, and it's they're hard for me because I put so much work into
Yeah,
the book
yeah,
that
they don't take the consideration about you. They don't take the they don't see, they don't feel all the
right.
work and all the things you can have to doing something which is really important to you, because I think the most important thing is for the victim and the victim's family, because the
Yeah, I've tried to reach out to some of the victims' families, but I
yeah, it's
remember I
not
tried to reach
easy.
out to Faraday's family, but they were just
Yeah, I try to.
so
Yeah,
hurt that they weren't interested. I reached out to Brian Hartnell, tried to get him to listen to Cavalli's voice, and he never got back to me. So it's hard. It's a
yeah, I know,
difficult thing,
I
but
know.
you want justice for the victims,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. You. It's true, because
and that's one of
I
the
try
frustrating
to.
things about not having my work publicized at all. Is that none of the victims' families probably even know, unless I contacted them years ago.
Yeah,
No, they don't even know who Cavalli is. So it's a shame.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It is. Yeah, yeah. Because it's. I will not say it's a tunnel vision, because it's not. There is a lot of different suspects. So sometimes they are interesting in some suspects. I don't know why, because
Like
at
Arthur
the
Lee
end,
Allen, he keeps coming up as a suspect.
yeah,
People say, "Oh, I think it was Arthur Lee Allen." I mean, Arthur Lee Allen, the witnesses to the Stein murder, or the one witness anyway, Lindsay Robbins, laughed when I mentioned
yeah,
Arthur Lee Allen.
yeah.
He said, "There's no way that it was Arthur Lee Allen with a
No,
crew cut wig or
no.
otherwise, because he was too big." And then Ross Sullivan, he's even bigger than Allen, I think, and so he wouldn't fit. So I think that people have to realize that there may be a lot of good suspects, but only one of them was the Zodiac, if
Oh
one of
yeah.
them was the Zodiac. And that the other ones, even though they were good suspects, are going to fall by the wayside.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't criticize anyone. There is a lot of good suspect, a lot of people who do a huge effort and a huge job to try to find a killer, and they do it like you, Mike. But not everybody is okay with each other, and that's why I like to create the debate, because I think it's important to try to debate more than fight. Fight doesn't serve anyone anything. A debate can
Right.
help, even if you don't agree. It could help. So
Right.
I like to debate, and I like to learn. I like to learn new stuff, new evidence, even if it's circumstantial evidence. It's something that maybe people have never heard before. Maybe I don't think so, but maybe there was people today. It depends. Who don't know you. Um, I will be surprised, but I think that you brought a lot of good points who indicate that Charles Cavalier was in play in maybe not the Zodiac himself, because we don't know, like you have said, somebody was writing and somebody was killing, but he was in the plot. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that
Mm.
Cavalli, of being the killer of the letter writer, he would have been the killer because he looked like the sketch. So, I
Yeah,
think that I can definitely say he would have been the killer. And
yeah, it's true.
that,
Yeah,
that, but the thing is that if you're writing letters, but they have nothing, in other words, I think that the letters had to do with Cavalli's life, with things in his life, like the bus bomb and things like that. But
yeah,
if you're the letter writer and it has nothing to do with you, and you're writing letters but it has nothing to do with you, it's tougher to nail down the person who's writing the letters, because the letters have nothing to do with their life. That they could have been a completely different person, but the substance of the letters has to do with Cavalli, and this
and
person is just writing them.
what do you think about all this slave and paradise of death, all those weird stuff that the Zodiac was mentioning in his
Well,
letter?
I
What
thought
do
it
you
was
think about
interesting
that?
that, well, first of all, that has its basis in Norse culture. And I thought it was interesting that when you went through all the trouble to solve the 340, all you get is more doggerel about slaves in the afterlife and things like that. You don't get anything substantive. You get more talk about people having slaves and people not having enough slaves, and he's comfortable with dying because he has enough slaves for his afterlife. Um, I think it shows that this was something that was on his mind. This was not something that was just a passing whim. And it does have a basis in Norse culture where they would, in fact, they found graves in Norway where was a person in there, and I think a person without a head or something, or just the head of a person in the grave with him. And they said that these were people, his servants, who were put in as slaves in the afterlife. So the concept of slaves in the afterlife is definitely a Norwegian concept. It could have other explanations, but certainly
Oh yeah, yeah,
it fits
but
in. It fits in with the Norse culture.
I really didn't know that. It's really really interesting.
Yeah, they found graves. I forget when this came out. It came out several years ago, but they
In
found
Norway,
graves with the person buried and body, just either a head without a body or a body without a head. I forgot what it was.
I will
That's
try
in the
to
grave
find
with them.
that. Yeah, I will try to find that for the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
episode. Yeah.
Try to find it on the internet. I think it's
Right.
something you could search on.
So, would you like to move to the second crime?
Yeah, sure. The second
Very good.
crime. Um, well, it was another ambush attack. It was a question of whether Darlene knew the person or not, but I don't know. I mean, it's possible that she could have known Cavalli from Terry's Waffle House. I don't know. I mean, I do. Ed Russ told me something interesting. He said that Darlene used to see a guy from San Francisco who owned his own plane. I remember, and I don't know if he flew his own plane or he owned his own plane, but that would certainly fit Cavalli at the time because I think he had his own plane at the time. And if not, he probably owned a plane because he used it for his business. He used it to deliver parts. Like if someone got stranded in the middle of nowhere with needed parts, he would deliver a parts kit to them by plane. And I think that,
Really interesting.
yeah, yeah, he was really an innovator. He had a breakdown kit, and if someone broke down in the middle of the desert or were 50, 60 miles from San Francisco, I don't know if he would personally get in the plane and fly the parts there, but he would fly the parts to the person so that they would have them. And I guess whatever they used, they would pay for. Whatever they didn't use, they wouldn't pay for. So it's possible that Darlene knew Cavalli, but if she was seeing a guy from San Francisco who flew his own plane or had his own plane, that would certainly fit. But I don't know. I don't know what the origin of the story is, and Russ might know, but he's the one who told me. I remember.
Oh. Wow.
Zodiac seemed to know the cutoff techniques of the police. He got in the back of the car and he had a flashlight. He had a bigger, like Hornady had a little pencil flashlight on the gun. He was very proud of that because he mentioned it.
Yeah.
He mentioned it in the letters. He wanted to make sure that everyone knew that he knew to put a pencil flashlight on the gun. Of course, that could have come from a TV show. I think it was a Night Gallery or one of the shows had that in it. But he ambushed a couple. Oh, people say that Darlene was shot more than Mike. Some of the bullets might have passed through Mike and hit Darlene. So I don't know how many times she was aimed at, as opposed to how many times she was hit from bullets that passed through Mike and hit her. When people try to say that Zodiac had it in for the females, well, I don't know that that's necessarily true. I mean,
no, not especially.
It's a question of how many bullets. A question of how many bullets hit Mike first and passed through and hit her.
Yeah.
Which using a 9mm is certainly possible.
Oh yeah. We are not in the GFK case here. There is no magic bullet.
Right, exactly. Is there any questions you wanted to ask me about Blue Rock Springs or?
Yeah, the Zodiac mentioned the golf club of Blue Rock Springs.
Right. Cavalli said he never played that golf club. Cavalli was an elitist, but I don't know that he ever played or didn't play that golf course. But he probably knew where it was. And he does mention that they were killed near the golf course in Vallejo. And of course, going to his second bus bomb, I always felt that little round thing with the flag in it was like looked like a golf hole to me. That's one of the reasons I put it together with the other clues. But yeah, he does mention near a golf course in Vallejo.
Yeah, and what do you made about those phone calls? Why you need to call the police? Your personal thought about it.
He wanted to brag. I think he wanted to boast. Like I just shot somebody, and now you can go. Whoops, sorry, I kicked the table. I have my phone on.
Don't worry.
Yeah, it's like a Rube Goldberg thing. So I think that he called the police just to brag. The same as in Lake Berryessa. He wanted to give details that show that he knew what he was talking about and that the police couldn't catch him and all that. So I think that both of the phone calls were a form of bragging.
I'm wonder if the Zodiac had called for the first attack, and we will never know because the police had never made the connection with that.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
After the first attack? You don't know.
Well, no, me neither. There are possible holdbacks in the case, and if that's one of the holdbacks, that's a holdback.
So here there is a lot of question for you, Mr. Rodelli.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So,
by the way, getting back to that first question, I was trying. There's a guy who wrote an article. It said from Geneva, and it said March 12th or something, which was the Friday, as I remember. And that guy is still alive. He's in England. I tried to get in touch with him to ask him, if he actually had the conversation on March the 12th, or whether he was just saying that he was in Geneva on March 12th, and the conversation took place before. Um, but he hasn't responded. So I can't ask him any questions because he hasn't responded. I wanted to know if he remembered anything from that interview, even though it was a long time ago. It might just be another interview that he doesn't know anything about. But I figured I would ask him. But there's no way to get in touch with him because he isn't responding.
Yeah, it's not easy. And when you had the opportunity to talk to Charles Cavalet, and you try to place something on the lines to talking about the Zodiac.
I'm sorry, say that again.
When you have talked to Charles Cavalet, and you tried to talk about the Zodiac between lines.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, did I try to talk about the Zodiac between the lines?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess I did. I remember one question I asked him was about his building in Italy with the big cross circle on the facade, and he said that I was seeing what I wanted to see, and that it was really a key or something. The big thing, the big Q around the big thing looks like a Q around the cross circle was a key, but yeah, that's the symbol, and you can see the Q around the cross circle. But it's funny, I had it in my possession at that time, but I had forgotten. I probably had it in the folder that I had with me, an article from like Road and Track or Car and Driver or something from 1999, in which it said that, quoted Cavalli as saying that he intended to change the giant circle on the front, the circle on the front of the building into a giant Q. So I wasn't actually seeing what I wanted to see. I was seeing what he wanted me to see, because he said that he was going to change it into a giant Q, and that's what I think he did. So he lied about the giant Q on the front of the building, obviously, because he's the one who said in the quote and in his own words that he was going to change it to a giant Q.
Yeah.
I think he did. I think he did it in Europe because he probably figured that nobody would notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cross circle, and then you can see the beginnings of the Q around it.
And here you have Cavale. Q.
Oh yeah, QVALE. Yeah, I mean there's other words you can get out of that, but Cavalli is one of them, and it's juxtaposed against the circle. The cross circle is juxtaposed against his name on the building. I think that he did that in Europe because he probably thought that no one would notice it. He was wrong. My friend from Norway, from the Netherlands, is the one who told me about that. Edward Versluis. I didn't know anything about it, but he told me about it. I remember years ago.
And what do you do with, for example, Don Cheney talking all those things about Arthur Allen? Do you think Cheney was made it up? Everything?
I don't really follow that stuff very much, but I think that Cheney obviously had a motive for not liking Allen because he molested his daughter. I mean, I think that like people have said, if all the stuff that Cheney said is true, then Allen almost has to be the Zodiac. But he doesn't match. He doesn't match what the kids saw on the night of the Stein murder. So, you can say whatever you want about Allen, but if he doesn't match the person that did it, then he's not the right guy.
No, even if he claimed that he's disguised. No,
that's right. A pretty likely story, that Allen said that he wanted to kill people on lovers' lanes and call himself the Zodiac, and I don't know. It's very specific.
Yeah.
Almost too specific for someone to tell anybody.
Yeah. That's why it was about my theory. When I have start my research, I was wondering why Arthur Allen was the prime suspect in this case. And when I have understand then all the information coming from two people to the police about Allen, I was surprised, and it was Don Cheney and Sandy Panzarella. So I think that there was something behind that. I have made my research, and well, it's not my interview, but you see my process of thought,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I like I said, I don't really
my
know
thought
enough
process.
about Panzer. No, I don't know much about Panzarella. I know a little more about
But
Cheney, about how he
in,
how he
in the same
allegedly
time,
moved.
in the same times, I can completely be wrong about that, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that because I don't want to hurt anybody. So if my theory is wrong, I'm really apologize for the Cheney family and the Panzarella family. I hope they rest in peace if they are not my suspects in this case.
Right, right. Yeah, like I said, I spoke to Panzarella years ago. We were talking about Alan mainly, so I don't
Yeah.
really know much about
And
him other than what he
what
said to
about
me
his
about
voice?
Alan.
What about these voices? Because I remember to have this conversation with Drew Bison, and Drew Bison told me, "Yeah, but yet he has uh, Alzheimer's, so it changed the voice and blah blah blah." But no, I have made my own research. I've asked people in the medical world if when you have this kind of disease, did your voice change? And the answer was no. And when you heard Panzarella in the 2007 extra of the Blu-ray of the David Fincher film Zodiac, you heard Panzarella really with a really monotone voice. He's talking like this.
I don't think I remember him having when I don't I think I spoke to him before 2007. What did he have? What kind of disease did he have?
Um, he was struggling with, I just say, like um, Parkinson disease. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. I don't think I think that when I spoke to him, he was probably okay. I mean, I didn't notice any monotone voice. So, not that I was looking for one, but I mean, it was nothing remarkable I remember about his voice. So maybe before he got
Um,
really into the Parkinson's. If he had it, it might have been a mild case at the time. Um, but so so all right. So what are you saying about Parkinson's disease? How are you talking about
the,
Panzarella
i- i-
having made the phone calls or something?
no, 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 no. I was talking about his voice, about the voice that the Zodiac
Oh,
was doing, and also the voice of uh, the guy in Lake Berryessa. And I have,
yeah.
I think,
It had a certain cadence to it, which would fit in with what Cavalli had. A slow. I have two articles that I talk about in my book that say that Cavalli had a slow manner of speaking, and I think that's what Hartnell described. Um, he described also not an accent, but
no,
the cadence, a drawl. And I know that Cavalli drew out certain words. I don't know, like the word car. I have a tape of Cavalli speaking from the I don't know 1970s, I think, or right around the time that he was at Jensen Motors, and he says the word car. Really long, drawn out a
oh,
car. Now that could be considered a drawl. I would imagine that the reason I sent the tape to Hartnell is I would imagine that Zodiac would have said the word car to him, and I was wondering if he drew that word out like Cavalli did. But I never heard back from Hartnell, so I don't know.
it's it's also a shame because it can be really useful. Really,
Yeah. Well,
I
he
don't
heard the
know.
voice.
Yeah, he heard the voice, but he lived. He lived it. He lived the attack. He survived the attack. He
Right.
see his girlfriend die. So it was.
Some people try to say that Hartnell was a Zodiac. Now that means he stabbed himself in the
Yeah.
back to within like an inch of his heart, not a millimeter of his heart. I don't think that anyone would do that. You know, I mean, how do you know? How
No.
do you know you're not a millimeter the other way? He nearly killed himself. In other words.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think I don't. But that's the sort of crazy stuff you hear. Hartnell was a Zodiac.
Oh yeah, but you hear crazy stuff all around internet, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter,
Yeah. Yeah, you
everywhere,
do.
everywhere.
The
But
problem I have is that a lot of people with the crazy stuff are the ones that are getting the documentaries, like Gary Stewart and this Baber. You
yeah,
know, I mean, I have a very, very specifically laid out book that makes a case against Cavalli, and no one's ever been interested in it. Was that another
yeah,
question? I can't see. And
there is Out Ping Fluff who tells it's pretty infuriating. You don't have a documentary series. I watched Myth of the Zodiac Killer on Peacock last night, and it was pure garbage. And uh, about what uh, Thomas Oran say, and I'm talking on my behalf. Yeah, it's bullshit. Yeah, I don't trust and Henry Oran for anything he says. But
I didn't catch the first part. Did he say that I don't have enough for a documentary?
I don't know. She just say it's pretty infuriating that you don't have a documentary series.
Oh, it's pretty infuriating. I don't have a documentary. Yeah,
Yeah, excuse me
yeah.
for my excuse me for my accent.
It's
It's not.
exasperating for me.
Yeah,
You know, yeah, people with nonsense theories get documentaries, I guess, and people that have legitimate theories don't.
what do you think about the proximity of the Presidio height attack, Belay House, which was the Belgium embassy at the time, if I'm
Oh,
not wrong, and Donalas?
Donald Lass. Geez, I don't know
Yeah,
how I relate those. I don't know. Donald Lass
Donalas was
is
living on Presidio
confusing.
Height.
Yeah, but how do I relate the proximity of the murder to the Belgian embassy?
To the Belgium
I don't know.
embassy, Belay House,
That was
Donalas.
Belli's house, I think, at one point. Yeah, Belli. I
Yeah,
think Belli owned the house. I don't know. I mean, I never thought about any relationship between those things. Um, Donna Lass was in the Presidio Hospital for a while, but she was abducted from where? From out near Las Vegas or something. So
yeah, Lake
I
Tahoe.
I don't really know. I don't really know that there is. I don't know what the relationship is between the murder site and the Belgian embassy, except that the kids' mother and father were apparently at the Belgian embassy that night,
Yeah,
and that's why the kids were home alone.
yeah.
And the
That
Belgian
I
embassy was
think,
right at the corner of Jackson and Cherry.
yeah, that I think it's really strange. All those people,
Yeah,
all those high level society people together, a crime occurred there, and somebody just next to them lives there and maybe was at the party. We don't know. Maybe Charles Cavalet after goes to the party at the Belgium embassy.
well, I mean, if someone
Ambassade.
could prove that Cavalli was at the embassy party, then that would clear him.
It will be
But
good to try to have some photo of the time, but I don't know how.
yeah,
Yeah, because it
Just like
must
I
be
was told
have.
that Gaikowski had hair down to just his ears or something at the time of the Stein murder. I mean,
Yeah,
he was a part of the counterculture. He was part of the counterculture. I thought he would have hair down to his shoulders, you know. But someone said that I haven't seen a picture of him, but someone said that he has hair down to his ears at the time of the Stein murder, and it
it
looks
doesn't
like
fit.
his hair may have been reddish brown from the photos that I've seen. So I guess he can't be ruled out, by the hair length or anything like that.
Can we move to Lake Berryessa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think that I know there's all this stuff about Donna about how Sherry Joe Bates and Cecilia Shepard knew each other or something. I don't see how that relates.
I
I don't.
heard
I
that.
think that
I heard
yeah, I
that,
think
but I don't know if it's true.
yeah. I don't know, but I mean, I think this is another random attack. I think that the Zodiac started following the car at some point, or actually came upon their car while it was at Lake Berryessa. Um, it's hard to. I
Random,
mean,
not really. If I understand your
yeah, it
thought
was a. I
process.
think it was a random attack. I don't think that anyone was targeted.
No, not targeted personally, but the date was important.
Oh, the date. Yeah, the date. Yeah, the date was important to my suspect. September 27th was his father's
Yeah,
birthday.
yeah.
Um,
So it was not so random. You see what
right.
I
Not
mean?
random. Right. Not random that way. Right. Right. But random in terms of choice of victims. I don't think that he was
Yeah, yeah.
following anybody. That's just my personal opinion. I can't prove it. But plus, they went to so many different places. I mean, they went to the rummage sale or something. You would think that someone would have seen the car, pulling up behind them or parked near them or something. And then they went to the lake, and you could tell from the fact that the car was parked from the tire impressions that the car was parked there, but you can't tell when it got there. So if they were being followed, then the car would have pulled in right behind them, basically, and he would have waited, I guess, for a long time while they were at the lake. Um,
We have two guys on the day of the attack. The voyeur, somebody that three
right.
girls had seen and say is good looking, and the Zodiac.
Yeah, there was the guy that the father and the son that had the gun, that the dentist and the son or something saw somebody on the hillside right near the time of the murders. But whether that was Zodiac or not, I think that he supposedly had the same shirt on or something as Zodiac. I don't know, something about the shirt, but I don't really. I mean, I know that Zodiac. I used to think that. I read Graysmith's book, and in Graysmith's book, he has the guy going around the bottom of the, because they were on like an elevated surface, and he has the guy going around the bottom and coming up by the tree, by one of the trees that was near them. That's what Graysmith has. So that's what I thought for a long time.
Yeah,
And then I found out the Zodiac just walked right across the hump, and went behind a tree on the hump of the land there, the landmass. So I went out there in 1999, I think it was, with Ken Narlow, and I was going by what Graysmith said, and I ended up at the wrong place. But we didn't know it for a long time, and Ed was working with me at the time, and Ed came, and we went out and we walked around the island and all this stuff. It looked different to me, but it was the only island that we thought was the right one. And then Ken said, I think I'm going to go take a walk further north. And he walked north, and it turns out the next peninsula was the one where the attack occurred. And he recognized it because the tree was there, it's still leaning backwards. That tree eventually fell. And now there's nothing out there, as far as I know. But so we got in the car and we drove up. And by the time we got there, the guy was locking the gate. So we didn't get to go out to the peninsula with Ken. If we could have gone out to the peninsula with Ken, we could have learned all sorts of stuff. But unfortunately, we didn't. And I've always regretted not going back with Ken. But Yeah, I think it was a random attack. I think that they were attacked. I think that the movie got it wrong. I think that they had them like further south and east of where they were attacked. I think they were attacked under the trees because that's where Bill White Sr. was walking the day afterwards. They had a thing with Bill White Sr. and he's walking around under the trees, and they had the boxes, the apple boxes, or whatever, under the trees, covering the footprints or something like that. So I think the attack actually occurred under the trees, but so the movie I think got it a little bit wrong there. I don't know. The Graysmith was boasting on the video about how they had found the right spot, and Fincher found it by listening to the traffic or something or whatever on the bluff or whatever. But I don't think they got the right spot. I think that the spot was really between the trees. I'm surprised Hartnell didn't know that when he went out there.
Yeah. Hartnell was there, so
yeah, that was really weird. I mean, unless Bill White had it wrong. But you would think they would be in the shade.
Yeah.
What's that?
He was considered as a suspect, Bill White.
Oh, Bill White was, yeah, and also another guy, the Dennis Land, I think his name is.
Dennis Land.
He was also considered a suspect.
Yeah,
but
as Richard Hoffman.
Oh, Dick Hoffman. Yeah, he was accused by one of his relatives recently.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always great to accuse someone when they're dead because they can't say anything. I came forward. Cavalli was still alive in 1999 until 2013 when I came forward. So I gave him plenty of opportunity to deny that he was the Zodiac. And the best he could do was lie to me at our meeting.
Yeah.
But I noticed that when someone's dead, they come out and they say all these things about him. And the guy can't say, hey, you're wrong, or I can test that because he's already dead.
No.
So
do you have now the possibility to go before a court of law with strong evidence?
Well, Richard Walter taught me that the way you solve a case is develop a profile, which he did, that fits the perpetrator and the suspect, and then develop a circumstantial case against the suspect, which I've done.
Yes.
But most people seem to need DNA today. You know, they all want, everyone says DNA. But there's no DNA in the Zodiac case, and there's no proof there ever will be. I mean, there could be from that little reddish brown hair behind the stamp that's only about, a couple of millimeters long, a few millimeters long. I don't know that they can get DNA out of that hair today or not. But
no, I think it's a ruse. But I could be completely wrong.
Which would be a shame because that's really the only. The other thing is when they get DNA, if they get mitochondrial DNA from that hair, forget about it, because you could probably get mitochondrial DNA out of it, but that's useless because you'd have to go back to find matrilineal matches for all the suspects and do all the testing. You got thousands of suspects. You'd have to do all the testing, and same thing for nuclear DNA. You'd have to, if Zodiac isn't in a database, then they'd have to test all the people individually. And they're not going to do the expense of. But first of all, most of the people are dead, and you'd have to get DNA from from their relatives. So I don't know that DNA is the magic bullet in this case, but people seem to think it is. I think that it's been proven that Zodiac didn't lick his stamps and envelopes, because if he had, I mean, where is the DNA from the stamps and envelopes 20-something years after they started looking for it? If it's really there, I don't think it's there. So,
but there is a lot of people who say, yeah, but at the time they was not thinking about the DNA. And what I've learned in your book, which is really interesting, that when he was doing his horse racing,
they tested the saliva of horses.
The saliva of the horse. Yeah. Can you tell me more about that? Because he knew that. So
Cavalli would have known, as the president of a racetrack, that they were testing saliva of horses for something. medications or whatever. And, he might have avoided licking stamps and envelopes because he knew about it, because he knew about the testing for something in saliva, or because in his office setting, they sent out so many letters that they used a sponge. They didn't use it. They didn't lick. They did to have to lick stamps in an office where you've got hundreds of letters going out a day doesn't make any sense. It would make sense to wet the stamp with a sponge, and maybe that's the way he did things. But at any rate, I think that the testing that Alan Keel did, and one of the problems is that Alan Keel will not come forward, I think, for political reasons now. He gets a lot of his business from law enforcement. He doesn't want to say anything negative about law enforcement or negative about the Zodiac case. But I think that Alan Keel proved through his testing that there was no saliva on the Zodiac's letters to begin with. And the subsequent testing after all these years of all these letters to try to get saliva from them, to get DNA from them and not getting it, reinforces the fact that Alan Keel was right.
Yeah.
So there's no Zodiac. No, so this is where Riverside comes in. Riverside said that kid, they were able to I don't know, get his saliva off of the flap of the envelope, and they were able to go back and find the kid that licked it. But they didn't say anything about how they matched him to the Zodiac letters. Now, did the Zodiac letters not have any saliva on them, which would make them very similar to the base letters, the base at the die letters? Did they not have saliva on them, just like the Zodiac letters? That would then make them very close to the Zodiac letters. Or was there DNA on them that they were able to match to the kid, and they knew that he did it, but they didn't say that in their press release. So that's the question I would have for them. I see all these questions coming up.
Yeah, there is a lot. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, people think that theatrical is costume. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a persona that he created himself and he killed himself. Yeah, there is a lot. Yeah, so I have the question that people send to me for you, Mike.
Go ahead.
So this is not me speaking.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have this question. Mr. Rodelli, your theory relies heavily on Robert Talbot's account, since he only
Robert Graysmith? Is that what you said?
No.
Oh.
No.
Who?
Your theory relies heavily on Robert Talbot's account.
My theory relies on Robert Tarbox. I don't even mention Robert Tarbox in my book, I don't think. It doesn't rely on Robert Tarbox.
I don't know.
It doesn't. My theory, I was working on this years before Robert Tarbox even came along.
I don't know. The question.
What's the question?
The question was, since he only came forward decades later, what specific pieces of independent evidence were you able to find that most strongly corroborate his 1972 meeting with the suspect?
I didn't do any work on that, so I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I'm not dependent on Robert. I don't know where this person gets the idea that I'm dependent on Robert Tarbox. I mean, Robert Tarbox said that he met with someone who was in the Merchant Marines or something. My suspect was in the Navy, not the Merchant Marines, although his brother was in the Merchant Marines. And I would imagine that Cavalli, if Cavalli wanted to go in as his brother, they probably had a picture stapled to the car at the time. I mean, I don't imagine they were too sophisticated. He probably could have taken the staples out and put his own picture on. But I'm not dependent on Robert Tarbox. I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, Robert Tarbox couldn't exist, and my theory would still exist.
Oh yeah, me, I'm just the messenger. Don't be the
Right. I
messenger.
understand. I don't know. I haven't done any work at Robert Tarbox. I had a friend call Robert Tarbox, and he was trying to get him to give him the name of the person, but he wouldn't.
Okay. Another question. Mr. Rodelli, in your book, the geography of Mont Diablo is central. Could you explain how your suspect's specific background or professional life gives him the knowledge required to create the radiant map and the complex compass angle sent to the chronicle?
Well, my suspect has a professional relationship with Mount Diablo that has nothing to do with the Radian. Um, it has to do with him hosting a hill climb race there in 1949, and he also owned a car dealership in the area of Mount Diablo. I think on Mount Diablo Boulevard or something like that. So he has definite ties to the area. Um, in terms of the Radian, well, the Radian goes through Presidio Heights. It goes through and it goes through Blue Rock Springs, right? Um, I don't really know what I don't. I haven't done any specific work tying him to the Radian, so I don't really know what that question's about. Again, what
Don't
do they want to
worry.
know?
Do not worry. There is people who send me question, and sometimes they are not so well educated to talking about your research because they
I
don't
mean,
have with
I
the
can tie
book.
my suspect to Mount Diablo through his 1949 race, but up the hillside race up Mount Diablo. But other than that, I don't have anything. I don't have anything specific tying him to Mount Diablo. But I think that's enough.
No. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But don't worry. Sometimes there is question like this. People send to me, and
Okay.
like this one with the DNA. With modern Mr. Rodelli, with modern advance in genetics genealogy, do you think there's still a chance to recover DNA from the stamp or envelope that could finally prove your suspect was Cavalli?
Well, I don't think that any development in genetic genealogy or in genetics or whatever in DNA recovery is going to help letters that weren't licked. If the letter wasn't licked to begin with, then there's no DNA on it to recover. So I don't know that there's any hope from the stamps and letters. What I would focus on is the reddish brown hair behind the stamp, even though it's very tiny, getting DNA from that, and that's what I appear to be waiting for. You know, that's what I mean. People don't want to accept the fact that Cavalli was Zodiac. They want DNA. The only source I view as being viable is the small reddish brown hair behind the stamp, and God knows when they're going to have the right technology to be able to extract nuclear DNA from a hair that small.
And when you say that people don't want to believe you, it's it's not the good attitude. The good attitude is to know the truth. We don't care if it's Arthur Lee Allen or Shaul Cavalli or Ross Sullivan or Don Cheney, or we want the truth. So when you have somebody like Mr. Rodelli who spent 55 years of his life, like me, exactly like me, I started in 2001 and we are in 26. We've spent 25 years of his life to doing a really good job, and you can really consider it in reading his book that it's not nothing. There is something behind that. It's serious. It's there is a lot of works, and it's not all the time coincidence, coincidence, coincidence. No, it's not possible. There is something. Maybe it's something else that we think, but I don't know how tie that to another case because I'm not familiar with other case in San Francisco at the time. But Shaul Cavale seems to be a really, really good suspect, and I don't understand why, like you, I don't understand why you have never been approached by somebody to propose to you to be part or making a documentary on your person of interest.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It confuses me too. But like you said, maybe the person you're going to contact. What's her name again?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Aphrodite Jones.
Aphrodite Jones. Yeah, maybe Aphrodite Jones will break that skein.
Yeah, but I will send her the video and I will make her a little recap, and
Okay,
I'm
great.
going
Well, I
to
appreciate it.
ask her to watch this video and see if she is interesting and contact you to doing something, or I don't know, I can talk on her behalf, but I'm going to try
Somebody
to.
said a long time, not a long time ago. Somebody said recently, actually, that I've become the most interesting part of my story because I've stayed with this for so long. And I think it's kind of funny. The only reason
Yeah,
I've had to stay with it so long is
yeah,
that the police wouldn't act. I mean, the
no,
police seemed to be paralyzed by Cavalli when he was alive, and then when he died, I guess there's no interest in someone who's dead. So, yeah, the fact that I've been willing to stick with this for 26 years, because I think I'm right. That's the only reason I've stuck with it. If I thought I was wrong, I would have gone away a long time ago.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
think I'm right,
because it was,
and
yeah,
so I
yeah,
stay with it. If they
oh
want to
yeah,
call me
and
obsessed, they call me obsessed.
no, you're a bulldog.
I'm a bulldog. Yeah, I am. Well, I'm glad somebody recognizes that.
When um, do you want to develop something else about the case, about your book, about your approach?
Um, well, I don't know what more to say about my book. I mean, it's got information about the crime scenes. I don't just
It's
jump
the
right in and
second
start
one.
talking about Cavalli because I try to educate the person about the case
Yeah,
first. So I talk about the letters, I talk about the crime scenes, and then I introduce Cavalli because you can't really understand why I think Cavalli was interesting unless you understand the crimes. And so I try to do things in a logical manner, um, introducing the crimes, the letters, then the suspect. Then I talk about the bus bombs and circumstantial evidence surrounding him, profiling. So I try to do as complete a job as possible, and then I summarize everything in the last chapter. So I think that I took a left brain approach to the research. It was sort of like what I learned when I was in oceanography. I mean, you have to do scientific research. You have
yeah,
to document what you're doing. I documented everything in the book so that people can't say, "Oh, this is an opinion." I give them if I cite a newspaper article, I cite where it was, when it was, and how to access it. There's like 200 something footnotes, I think, in the book, and 100, not 100, but 30 or 40
there is a lot of
exhibits.
footnotes. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's a lot of
exhibits.
footnotes because I never wanted to be accused of. Because I know that a lot of people just give their opinion of, I think that this person was Zodiac, or I think that this person did this or did that. I want to be able to say definitively that this is what this person did, and here's the proof. Here's the documentation I got. So yeah, it was
Almost.
a lot of
Uh,
work. It was a lot of effort, and I hope people
yeah.
will read it.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too, because people know that I'm ready in the Zodiac, and every 5 page you have footnotes.
Yeah, if that long.
Oh my god, there is a lot. The, and it was not difficult to digest all those information. It was not really difficult,
Yeah,
but
people talk about, the way true crime is written is like, there's different voices or different. I don't know what they're talking about. I just wrote, the way I know to write, and I just wrote what I felt, and I didn't do it with any specific um, style in mind or anything like that. I
but
just
you
wrote what I
are
felt.
you are a really good writer because I try to write. I'm a musician. I play guitars. There is I don't know if you will see, but there is
Oh
plenty
yeah, I
of
can see
guitar.
the. Yeah, I can see the. Is that cymbals? Is that from a drum set?
Yeah, this is a drum set. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see it. It's sort of hard to make out, but I can see that there's a drum set there.
There is a lot of stuff in my.
See you next Ringo Starr. I hear so many people
I,
criticize Ringo Starr because he played with the wrong hand or something, but I don't know.
oh,
He was left-handed and played right-handed or something. I forgot what it was, but I don't know
who
enough
cares?
about drums to be able to comment.
Really. And I'm. I would like to write, not on the Zodiac, but I would like to write, but it's difficult, and that's why I really appreciate author like
Do you want to
you.
write? Do you want to write true crime, or do you want to write like fictional books?
Oh, if I had the choice, true crime. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that fictional books. Forget about it. I can't do it. I wouldn't even know where to start writing a
Oh,
fictional
it's
book.
something else. Yeah. It's something else. Yeah.
It's a totally different beast.
Yeah.
With true crime, you do the research and then you just write about what you learned. At least that's the way I view it. So, um,
Yeah, but there is a way to do it, and you have the good way to do it.
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
In my opinion,
Maybe it's intuitive. I don't know. Do you have any more questions?
Uh, no, there is statement, but if you have any question, go ahead now because I will not read everything now. I'm going to read all your
Oh, I have mostly comments.
comments after. Thank you, Mike. Mike's helped me
You're
with my
welcome.
English when I'm struggling. But there is Mr. South the West, which say great interview. Thank you very much. But thank you very much to Mr. Rodelli
Oh, you're
because
welcome.
you take on your time, and thank you very much. I
No problem.
really I also really enjoyed this interview, and I would like to have you again to talking about.
Sure.
Are you still? Do you continue to write your book on the Monster of Florence?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be out anytime soon, but I'm continuing to work on it. Mainly I'm doing research on the internet. Using YouTube to look at videos and come up with different things. So, but I have my own opinions on the case. I don't think that, for instance, whoops, there goes my phone again. I don't think that what's his name, Joseph Bevilacqua, was both the Zodiac killer and the Monster of Florence. I think that there were two different signatures involved in those crimes, and so
Yeah, I
it's
don't
a lot of
think.
lot of talk, a lot of talk about Joseph Bevilacqua, but I don't think that's true.
No,
The
no, me
person
neither.
has a
No.
theory, and they're pushing it. Um, anyway, I guess I'll get going, but it was a pleasure speaking with you. If you want to talk again, if you want to go through and want to ask me the questions that came up, that'd be fine sometime.
Yeah,
In the
yeah, yeah.
meantime, I'll say hi to Aphrodite Jones, and hopefully she wants to talk to me.
Oh yeah, me too. So
All right. Have a good day.
have a good day. Thank you very much, Mike. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Bye.
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 So it was Mr. Rodelli. The first time I met him, and I'm really glad to meet him. Really, really glad. Yeah, you will, because it's really interesting. Really, really interesting. I'm going to show you again the book, but you must know, because I think Mr. Rodelli is much known than I am. So I don't think to introduce Mr. Rodelli here. I think I better to present myself. Oh, my name's Jerome. I'm a researcher in the Zodiac case, in the JFK case, and in Hodo case. And at the same time, I'm Laka from Caspiar. Yeah, a little island in the Caspian Sea. She sunk. You see, I'm stay the same, crazy as I. So I would like to thank you very much, Mel, Lisa. Thank you very much. Um, yeah, like as I was saying at the beginning of the video, um, just maybe one new stuff in the Stephen Avery case and the murder of Teresa Halbach and the Brandon case is that Jack West from the Stephen Avery project on Facebook had made a video, or maybe it was just a comment. I don't remember now because my mind is still on Mike Rodelli. But uh, she had wrote that somebody came forward and gave her a new information, really interesting. So she will send the information to Kathleen Zellner, and we will wait if Kathleen Zellner find that this information is helpful or not for Stephen. So we will see. But there is a new information. I don't have any idea of what it is. If no, it's not true. It's not true. Uh, if it goes on Ryan and Scott and Mike, it goes on the good way. If it's still on Bobby, I think it's no way home. This it will be handless if you continue to accuse Bobby Dassey to do it. I don't think it did it. Did you know that even Steven, don't think he did it? So I don't know why people think he did it, but everybody had the right to think what they want. But I have studied this case since 2016, 1 year after the release of Making a Murderer, and I can tell you that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are innocent of the crime of Teresa Marie Albach. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And why I have put this little short video of Teresa Halbach saying, "My name is Teresa Halbach. I've been killed in 2005, and the killer is still out there. And it's neither Stephen Avery or Brendan Dassey." You can see this little short video on the channel. Why I did that? To shock people, to make a shock, because people don't move again. There is before we were 10, 15, 20 people all the time on YouTube fighting for the cause, fighting for the good cause. because I will never protect a killer. I will never protect somebody who had made stuff who are horrible. But you know, making a murderer was really entertaining. And this is all about that. If you see the documentary, just the documentary on Netflix, it's entertainment. If you see the other documentary on Peacock, um, what is the name again? Remember me in the chat if you remember the convicting a murderer. Yeah, it's entertainment. Also, uh, if you want to study this case, it will take you at least 10 years. Me, I'm done. I'm really done. I know everything it's possible to know on this case. So I don't know. There is a problem. I know there is a big problem. And with the year and the documentary and all this political stuff, no, that they can't claim we were wrong because it will be devastating for everybody, not just for Manitowoc, for everybody, judge, politicals, senator, all of those people. They have too much to lose. So I think Stephen will never get out of jail. But we want to know the truth. We want to know the truth about what happened to Teresa Halbach. She deserved it, like John Bennett Ramsey. She deserved to. She deserved that we, us, the people, try to know the truth because law enforcement doesn't care. You know about the Zodiac case. We were talking with Mike about that. They doesn't care. I, by myself, call the Zodiac. Yeah, it's called the Zodiac. Hey, guy, how are you doing? How I'm fine. I'm fine. No, I've called the SFPD. They told me, guy, man, we are done. Okay, we are done with that. We have received too much information. We are done. Clear? Oh, okay, okay. I didn't insist. Tried to reach out and call Vallejo. They told me the same thing. Oh, we've received a lot of information. We don't give a fuck about that. And don't call again. And no, they don't want to participate. Riverside, same shit. Uh, Napa County, there is a difference. This is not a no, but they have not a lot to say. So it's difficult. I tried to contact the family of the victim. Nobody wants to talk. I tried my best in this case, the Zodiac case, to find the truth. For now, I don't know. I have my theory, but it's just a theory. Nobody's know. Maybe Mike Rodelli is right, and it's Shaul Cavalli. Maybe with an accomplice, maybe not. Maybe I'm right. Maybe Drew Bison is right. Maybe nobody is right. Maybe the Zodiac was somebody that nobody have never heard before. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to know. And for Steven, it's really hard. For Brendan, it's even, I think, harder. But I don't see anything in this case who could help them to get out of jail now. That's why I was talking about finding a private investigator, a lawyer to investigate on Ryan Hidegas, Scott Blodom, Mike Halbach, without Kathleen Zellner. And I've talked about that to Sandy Greenman and Steven himself. I agree. They find this is a really good, a really good idea, but no one's to move. No one's to. Nobody contact me to say, "Hey, I'm going to help you to do that." Nobody, no one. So I think people doesn't care anymore. That's something I can understand because there is a lot. You have your life, and in the true crime world, it's sometimes it's complicated. Yeah, it's complicated to have his own life and watching true crime stories. It's not so pleasant, you know. So I can understand that sometimes you don't care anymore, but for people like us, we want the truth. And when I will have 80, if I have 80 years old one day, I'm going to be the same crazy Belgian you love, or you like, or you hate. Yeah. Thank you for your pixie. Thank you very much. And it was really great to see you too. Really. And I would like to say again that this book is a really good book. In the Shadow of Mon Diablo, the shocking true identity of the Zodiac Killer by Mike Rodelli. Excellent book. It was an excellent show. Want to do it again. I hope to do it again. And since the next time, if it's not already, please subscribe. And I see you.